What is your trick to impress at a job interview? Blow them away with your enthusiasm, knowledge, honesty, and manner. If you don't know something, say so, but try to explain what little you know, or think of it. Try asking a few questions about the job. Lying or BSing is fine as long as you don't get caught. Don't rage at me for this. Pretend to be enthusiastic even if it's not your dream job. Well, I suck at interviews, so I don't know what else to say. I admit when I don't know something instead of bullshitting. Be genuine and smile. Look them in the eye when they're talking. Wear something suitable. If you're not sure, go for smart casual. My current job, I got it because I made my boss laugh and seemed eager to learn. I ended up talking to another manager about photography as I did a film degree and he's a photographer in his downtime. I always suggest being honest. If you don't know the answer to a question, admit it. Ask questions, always. It shows a willingness to learn and an interest in the role. Turn your phone off or put it on silent. At the end, thank them for their time. Once you're done, send an email of thanks for the consideration. This is what clinched it for me. I was the only person that did that out of the other people I was interviewed alongside. Extreme honesty, not faking any of it. This may seem like something smart, or even righteous, to do, but consider this. Many other applicants will embellish and over-exaggerate their skill. If you over-exaggerate your skill and get hired, that's an easy way to get a difficult, interesting job that you can learn stuff from. The righteousness of it may make it more tempting, even when it isn't the correct choice for achieving your goals. Have a closing statement prepared when they ask, is there anything else you'd like to share at the end of the interview? Make sure it highlights your strengths and reinforces your answers from earlier in the interview. Ask good questions that show you know what you are talking about. At the end, do you have any concerns about me as a candidate? Oftentimes there are at least some concerns, and this gives you an opportunity to address them while you are still in the room. Accidentally dropped my monster condom that I use for my magnum dong. What about phone interviews specifically? I've always found those more stressful, to be honest. Dress up like you were actually going to interview in person. It helps put you in the appropriate mindset. I pretend that my depression and social anxiety doesn't exist and fake being super happy. I always talk to the interviewer like they're an old friend from high school calling to catch up, and I mimic their body posture nonchalantly. Big tits. Overfill a plastic cup with water so when they say, "Are you nervous?" I can go, "Nope, I just always give 110%. I'm in IT and I'll look the company up and see what major projects they have on their website. Oh, I see your company is currently expanding into cloud networks. We did a similar project when we migrated our data center to AWS last year." Basically, I end up turning the interview into a conversation, and so far my employers have loved that. Focus on your skills, achievements, experience, being good with people, how these things would help you with this job and show that you're a good person. Prepare. Read up on the business of the place you're interviewing and drop some of that knowledge into your answers. Taking the time to do this impresses. Stare them in the eye and take a shit on their desk. Shows up to McDonald's interview in suit and tie. This should impress those managers. I pretend to be happy and sober and nice and sociable. It actually got me a temporary job and now I have to keep the facade up for the rest of the summer. They are even threatening to give me steady employment. I don't know how long I can do this. I don't even know if I'm even pretending anymore. Send help. I do a lot of interviews, some from kids right out of school. One time this young woman comes in and I ask a standard question about does she understand what it is we do and the job she is applying for. She responds, "I have no idea what you do or I would do." Awesome. Interview over. I can kick her out and get 30 minutes back. She proceeds to pull out all of our recruiting material, our website descriptions, detailed research she had done, etc., and show me that it was 100% bullshit corporate doublespeak, written by consultants, deleted by legal, warmed over by marketing, etc. We made an offer on the spot. Answer questions before they've asked them. For example, everyone knows at some point they're going to ask you when did you last go above and beyond in a job role? Or what's your biggest weakness? So, when they start the interview, they'll usually start with tell me about your current role. That's when you get this stuff out there. So in my current role I do blah and I find I'm really good at it because blah and I often go the extra mile by doing blah. Sometimes I struggle with blah, but I've found that by staying organized and concentrating on blah I can overcome my shortcomings and succeed. And about weaknesses, highlight them and be honest. But make sure you explain how you work to overcome them and why they might even be useful. So for example, I work in field sales driving around to businesses selling a product. I also have terrible attention span and I'm impatient. But this can be a plus in that kind of work because you're always moving on to something new. So as long as I've always got a new task coming up, I won't get bogged down with the current one. Also the obvious stuff. Dress well, get a haircut, cover up any unsightly tattoos. A nice tree outline is fine. Woody Woodpecker sucking off Fred Flintstone is not. Be polite, be confident, and fake it if you're not. Try and make them laugh. I do my homework, both in knowing about the company, job and in having some stories from my career ready to tell. Some can easily be adapted to a variety of questions. I'm totally candid about things I don't know or don't have experience in. This has the side effect of adding legitimacy to all the things I do claim to be good at. I approach the interview as though I'm interviewing them to see if I want to take their job or not. Because, honestly, I am. That projects confidence too. Go to interviews. On the 20th interview you're going to be way better than the first. When they ask do you have any questions, just ask this one simple question and it'll help a lot. Ask them what they like most about the job and what they've been working on recently that has really caught their interest. Interview the interviewer. It helps. Do your research and bring questions, and I don't just mean generic bullshit like why do you like working here, etc. Questions that are specific to this company. I googled the president of the company, found out that he liked college football and went to Texas Tech. Where did you go to school? Texas Tech. The Red Raiders. That was a tough loss on Saturday. I do not care about college football in the slightest and would have never known their mascot. Research the company and ask questions about it. A good go-to is asking what the growth opportunities are for your position. It shows you're interested in staying for the long term. Spend some time before any interview thinking what questions you want to ask. And make sure you have some good follow-up ones too. It makes you stand out as a candidate. Dress professionally. Say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. Respect goes a long way in today's society. Dress professionally. Yes. Say, yes, sir, or yes, ma'am. Women typically don't like being called ma'am. From what I've gathered, has an age connotation. Sir is fine, I guess, but whenever someone calls me sir it just feels goofy. I ask my favorite question at the end, and it has worked for me 100% of the time so far. So assuming I get this position, and let's be honest, I would really appreciate it, in 6 months to a year, what qualities or accomplishments will be the ones that remind you that you made the right choice in inviting me onto your team? Know that it is super weird for them too. Answer honestly. If I'm not a match then I'm not a match. Yeah, but money. Demonstrate competence and show a history of successful projects. Always bring a Uno reverse card with me. I'll be asking you a couple questions. Think again. Confidence but not arrogance. Honesty and asking questions. Once I told my friend I used 2 planners and he went in for a job interview and he told the interviewer that he too used 2 planners. Apparently, she became intrigued and talked about his organization skills for a while. Please explain your 2-planner system. For academic jobs you need to know what books and journal articles everybody interviewing you recently published. You need to be able to recall that info in the moment and be able to discuss specific findings in those works and share how your research agenda complements theirs. Take notes. Be active and engaged in what they are saying. If they mention a particular technology, write that down. Ask questions related to the job. company, etc. Show that you don't want a job. You want this job at this company. Be honest. If you don't know an answer, say I'm not familiar with X. Do you have any suggestions on resources where I could go to learn more? In my last job interview I made a really dumb joke which made the interviewers laugh and made it easier for me to feel comfortable and think clearly. Got offered the job at the end of the interview. What would you say if someone walked into an interview with no shirt on and I hired him? He must have had some really nice pants on. I like asking questions to the interviewer that throw them off guard a bit. For example, how does your team handle situations where you disagree with your boss? What would you change about your boss? What's the worst disaster your company has faced? If you could change one thing about your workplace, what would it be? What are the 3 most common reasons people leave the company? Bonus points if the boss is sitting there. 2. When you ask these, if they're hesitant to respond negatively or constructively criticize, that can tell you a lot about the working relationship between them and management. I would never hire someone who asked such invasive questions to try and put a rift between me and my boss. Sounds like a troublemaker. If the person interviewing me an older male, I usually recite and share some advice my grandfather gave me as a kid that fits something they said. It usually impresses them and makes them think I'm like him. My last job before my current, I had been unemployed for 5 years because I took care of my grandma after high school, and I mentioned that when she asked why I had been unemployed so long, mentioning it, she basically handed me the job. So if the person is an older woman, I mentioned that, and they always love it because it passes me off as a reasonable person. I spend a lot of time not just working on my answers, but working on making them as concise yet complete as possible. If you are in an industry for 10+ years, you can drone on forever on every single question. It really fatigues the people doing the interview, giving almost the same content in way less time. Really hard to do, which is why I think most people don't rehearse their answers when they really should. Sure, you have a great answer, but can you distill it down into a much shorter answer? When they ask me what is something you are really good at, or how do you see yourself adding value to the team, I tell them that I work really hard doing part 1, and it saves everyone else time because I care enough not to vomit knowledge, anecdotes, all over email and in meetings. In my younger days I was probably too smart or too excited for my own good and wanted to show it. Now I try and wait for the proper moment and be concise and precise and only share if it's actually relevant and will make any difference in the decision being made. A multifaceted question for the hiring manager as opposed to an HR screen or adjacent interview. What do you think are the biggest challenge the person who steps into this role faces, and how do you measure for success for that person? It's thoughtful, requires them to talk a lot, always good, and helps paint the current landscape for you, like what are the day one problems which need to be addressed ASAP, as well as how you'll be evaluated going forward. It reveals what they prioritize, and it also shows your thinking about how to best hit the ground running. Never gotten a bad reply to this and often am told, good question. It's important to remember interviews are bi-directional, and I find this one is really good at laying bare how a job may actually be versus a job description. I ask what my expectations, duties, and my role would be. That way they know I'm mentally preparing for my potential responsibilities. While not necessarily a trick, it's good to learn that not all of those awkward silences need to be filled by your rambling. When asked open-ended questions, answer concisely and honestly, and then shut up. What is the company's 1, 3, 5-year plan, and how does this role impact that? If they don't have a plan, be concerned. I also ask questions about finances. Been burned too many times in the startup world where runway ran out or they didn't have quite the funding they thought they did. At my current company, I was very impressed when speaking to the CEO, and he told me that if every client stopped paying today, they had 1 year of complete operations cost, salaries, benefits, utilities saved up in a war chest, just in case. Overdress every time. Even if you're applying to be a warehouse worker and everyone is in dirty jeans and well-worn tees, throw on a polo or casual dress shirt. If you're applying for a professional position, a suit is expected. Above all, iron your clothes and make sure they fit. A wrinkle-free t-shirt with some well-fitted jeans will do much better than a wrinkly dress shirt and poorly fitted dress pants. Wear footwear that you see is appropriate to the job. Other than that, Make sure you're groomed and don't smell bad. Avoid cologne as it bothers many people in a professional setting. You're at an interview, not a date. In the end, job interviews tend to go well when the interviewer can see that you are legitimately trying to figure out if you are a good fit for the company and vice versa. People will overlook shortcoming in job requirements as long as you fit the company personality and genuinely seem like you want to succeed at that role. Side note: yes, I'm aware I'm using my alt account right now, but a man has to gain enough comment karma to post in the subs that he wants to. So if you find this at all useful, help a man out and smash that upvote button. LMAO. Okay, this isn't me, but I need to share this story and this seems like the most appropriate place to do it. Had a regular come in yesterday who has a big ass banana tattooed to the side of his neck. I'd been wondering about it for a while, so I finally caved and asked him. He said, without missing a beat, "It's my safe word. You know, sometimes when you're gagged up and can't say anything, I can just slaps banana tattoo." He then went on to tell me that he had a job interview where the same question came up, so he gave the same answer. He got hired on the spot because they knew he would never lie to them. So, honesty. So I recently got a job that I would never have guessed. I still think I'm not fully qualified, but I brought a ton of genuine enthusiasm to the table. I was very excited about what they were doing and I was really excited to learn. I guess that was evident because the interview turned into a discussion and I got an email from them before I even got home. Lol. It's important to note that I just recently graduated undergrad and this is a job aimed for recent grads. Before you go into an interview, find out something you actually want to know about the company for when they ask, "Do you have any questions?" I asked about an infrastructure project going on, and we talked about some details. It allowed me to show some of my skills and showed that I was interested. My boss later said that was one of the factors for hiring me.